It is week 3 of the college football season. We are back with our best bets and picks. Today, we're talking about all the big-time games on Saturday, September 17th. I'm Austin, joined by Logan. The 4 games we're going to talk about, I'll pop them up on the screen. We're going to also talk about our favorite underdog of the weekend, as well as our best bet of the weekend that you guys can count on. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button too. And number 3, if you want to do us a favor, join our chalkboard. We love discussing with you guys, and joining our chalkboard just like a discussion app where we can just talk and whatnot. Click that join button below the channel, or you can click the link in the description. It's just easy to join, completely free for everyone. I believe it's only on iOS at the moment, but we'd appreciate it. We'd love to see you guys in there. There's over 1,200 people just constantly discussing. So hit that link in the description or in the pinned comment. Join our chalkboard, 100% free, and we'll see you guys in there. But Logan, let's recap last week. It was an all right week. The fans, we're going to recap you guys. You are moving to 8-8, a 1-3 week. I gave you guys the Tennessee win, despite, we counted the spread as 7, but I gave you guys the win. You guys deserved it. I was at 2-1-1 week. My best bet of the week was Pittsburgh +7. They end up pushing in overtime. Logan, you had a 1-3-1 week, moving to 11-9-1. We had a lot of weird overtime games, like I talked about at the top of the show. You had the Army best bet of the weekend, and they lose by 3 in overtime. A brutal, brutal week, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to keep moving into this week's games. We're going to go with, we only have 2 ranked matchups, and we're going to start with the first one. The 12th ranked BYU Cougars are on the road in Eugene, taking on the 25th ranked Oregon Ducks. Kickoff, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Oregon currently 3.5-point favorites. The over-under 56.5. Now, look at the Ducks. The storyline for this one. The Ducks bounce back after their brutal beatdown in week 1 to the Georgia Bulldogs. Bounce back, drop 70-piece on Eastern Washington. And then you look at the Cougars. Coming off a 2-0 win, an impressive double overtime victory over Baylor. Logan, I'm going to let you start this one off. The fans are on the BYU Cougars at +3.5. Are you going to roll with them?
I'm going to be rolling with the O in the Ducks in this one. Quack, quack. I know this is the second time I'm actually trusting Oregon this year. The first time they absolutely got steamrolled in a huge matchup versus Georgia. They were simply outclassed and outplayed in all aspects of the football game. But this one, being in Eugene, I think is going to be big for them. I'm backing Bo Nix and that Oregon offense to continue some of that momentum, as you mentioned, from the Eastern Washington game. I know it's Eastern Washington, and that's an inferior opponent, but they still did what they needed to do. 277 yards for Bo Nix, 5 touchdowns. Can he ride some of that momentum against BYU? Absolutely, right? To me, BYU was sort of lucky even to win against Baylor. Baylor had 117 yards of penalties last week. That was a lot of Baylor self-inflicted wounds. That wasn't super impressed, from the eye test on BYU, honestly. And Oregon's defense will have to be stout versus BYU. But BYU, only 3 for 14 on third down conversions last week. And honestly, like I said, BYU, to be honest, was lucky to win that game. They weren't great on third down. And they have some question marks on offense, especially at the wide receiver position. Again, dealing with injuries. Romney and Nakua, two of their best wide receivers, are questionable this week. Unfortunately, we don't have the status for that. Of course, later in the week it might be available. But I really am backing the Ducks in this one. I think they get a big, much-needed win at home in front of that home crowd.
Logan, I like where you're going with that one, but I'm going to go to a total in this, and I'm going to take the over 56.5 points. Now, before I get into my analysis, all the big games that we're talking about are timestamped down below, as well as our upset segment. So if you want to bounce around, feel free to do that. But let's talk about this over pick. Now, Logan, I know last week you took the over in the BYU Baylor game, and those teams came out and they were flat pretty much the whole game. There was only a couple drives where they were able to put up points. Even when the double overtime, they couldn't even hit the over for you. But I think we look at that team, and you talked about it. They have a good Baylor defense. You think at BYU only 3 for 14 on third down. A lot of punts. They weren't able to get any drives going, able to extend any drives. And I think the BYU offense, led by Jaron Hall, will fix some things. And I think they're going to Oregon. I think Oregon's defense is able to give up some points. And I'm okay if Oregon wins. If they score a ton of points, I'm fine with that. Maybe we both can cash out, Logan. But I look at that Oregon team. They put up 70 points last week, obviously bouncing back after that Georgia stinker when they only scored 3. But, the Bulldogs defense is going to be a little bit better than any defense they'll probably ever see this year. And I just look at this BYU defense. Not been all that great. They allowed 21 points to a bad USF team, allowed 20 to Baylor last week, and Baylor really couldn't do anything. You talked about all the penalties. A lot of those were offensive. And I just look at Bo Nix on the other side with the Oregon Ducks. This guy's, you'll know, and you'll probably feel this. He's an all-or-nothing QB. He's going to make a lot of aggressive plays, and sometimes those come to bite him in the back, but sometimes they lead to long plays, and that's exactly what you need when you're taking it over. You need guys that are willing to take risks. We don't want just guys that are throwing three-yard dunks, and that's all they're taking 8 minutes off the clock to go get us a field goal. That's how you nuke an over pick. And I think Bo Nix is capable of scoring points. You saw them. They dropped 70 points last week. I'm not asking for 70 today from the Oregon Ducks, but I am asking Oregon and BYU over 56.5 points. I have full faith they can get that done. Each of these teams has scored 50 points by their own this year. I think I'm taking the over 56.5 points. But Logan, I hope we both are cashing out in that one. And we're going to move to another matchup. The Penn State Nittany Lions, currently ranked 22nd in the nation, travel to Auburn to take on the Tigers. Another 3:30 p.m. kickoff. Penn State currently 3-point favorites. The over-under 48.5. Look at Penn State sitting at 2-0. They had that big win in week 1 over Purdue, and then they played Ohio last week, easily beating them. And Sean Clifford continues to get it done. Auburn, led by their running back, Tank Bigsby, 2-0 after beating Mercer and San Jose State. Now the fans, all over Penn State Nittany Lions. 64% of you guys are there. I'm riding with the fans. Look, I look at this one and I look at this line, and I think when you look at it, the only reason that I think Auburn is, this close is solely because I think they're a good home team. And I think they're respecting the SEC and respecting this team. I think Sean Clifford at the end of the day is better than TJ Finley. I mean, look at Finley, only 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions for the Tigers. And I just look at Sean Clifford. I think he can certainly get it done. Now, I know Auburn's going to want to run the football, and they've had 79 rushing attempts through 2 games, but Penn State's been pretty stout on the defensive line, only allowing 161 rushing yards on 48 carries. That's a little over 3 per carry, and I just think Sean Clifford's able to game manage this game a little bit more. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game by any means, and I think Penn State coming on the road, they're getting a little bit of respect, because I bet you if this was flipped at Penn State, the line's probably 7.5. So they're giving respect to the Auburn Tigers, and maybe they're trying to bait people into betting on Auburn. But I look at Auburn, they haven't done anything this year. They've beaten Mercer and San Jose State. They struggled last week. I think they only won by 7 points. And I just don't think they were down at halftime to San Jose State. I look at Penn State, their defense, their secondary should be able to force some turnovers, get Sean Clifford into easy spots. And I think he should be able to convert, whether it's field goals, touchdowns. I just think Penn State's the better all-around team and has a little bit more talent and the more established QB. So I'm riding with the fans. I'm taking the Penn State Nittany Lions. But look, Logan, Penn State, I'm on them. The fans are on them. What do you say about a good old-fashioned squad ride?
Austin, it's okay for us to disagree on this one. And honestly, that's what sometimes sparks the best debates on this one. So I am actually going to Auburn +3. Look, for you guys wanting to tail each of us, you're going to have to pick a side in this one. Whose argument is more compelling, right? For me, I watched a lot of college football, and I don't trust Clifford to win close games. The spread in this one is indicative of this being, once again, a close game, right? You got the public, you got Austin all over Penn State. I just don't think they're that much better of a team than Auburn, right? You can call it my SEC bias, as a lifelong SEC fan. This is SEC teams play a different breed of football that I don't know Penn State is ready for. Penn State, 89th and third down conversion percentage. That is bad. And especially against the big boys up in the SEC, they will definitely make life on Clifford, tough. Now, counter arguments, everyone's going to say, well, Auburn hasn't played anyone, right? If the odds makers, when they're making this line, clearly say, well, that doesn't really matter. This is still a decent, respectable football team, right? Auburn, sneaky good, offensively. They have a lot of big plays, right? You don't really necessarily think of them if you're looking at their numbers as a big play offense, but they're 14th in yards per play, while Penn State's defense is 67th in yards per play allowed. So Auburn is getting the chunk plays offensively, and Penn State is giving up some chunk plays defensively. It's no secret that Auburn, is going to try to win the time of possession, this one and run with Bigsby. Obviously, Auburn 12th in rushing yards, so far in the season. So Auburn will try to make this game ugly, but honestly, I think they're going to win the upfront battle. I think they're going to make life very difficult for Clifford. I'm going to take them with the points. What's going to be a great college football atmosphere? Give me Auburn in this one.
I can't believe you. I thought we were friends, and you're going with the Tigers. You're not squad riding with me and the fans. You're despicable. But you know what? At least I think we've disagreed on one pick. You're right now. You're 1-0 on me. So I'm coming to even back that record. It feels like a good time to segue into our best bets of the weekend. And I will start off first. And I am going to go to a play that I'm going to be honest, a lot of you guys aren't going to like. Now, my best bet segment is currently 0-1-1. So we're looking for our first victory. And I'm going to a team that a lot of people aren't going to want to trust, because I won't be taking the Nebraska Cornhuskers +11.5, taking on the 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Now, I know what you're saying. Like, Austin, Nebraska sucks. They just lost to a team that they paid to come to Nebraska to play, and they're 0-3 against the spread this year, to which I respond to you guys, they're due. Now, obviously, some people in the comments are like, oh, no, I hate when people say they're due. But I want to talk about this. Now, obviously, Nebraska, if you haven't heard, they let go of Scott Frost, no longer the head coach there. And while I love Scott Frost solely because of his time at UCF, he did leave us, and he wasn't a good fit there. And now they got Mickey Joseph, the interim head coach. Now, Mickey, if you don't know who he is, he's actually in his first year at Nebraska. He was previously the wide receivers assistant coach and then the head coach of wide receivers for LSU from 2017 to 2021. If you remember, LSU has had a bunch of good wide receivers come from LSU, whether it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and whatnot. But I'm not saying that Mickey Joseph is going to make the next Jamar Chase at Nebraska. What I am saying is I think he rallies the troops here. This is an all or nothing game for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. These guys just lost to a team that they paid to come to the stadium. And I know that on the other side of the coin, got the Oklahoma Sooners. Everyone's going to be wanting to bet against Nebraska. Understandably so. They haven't been good. And look, you're going to look at a 6th-ranked Oklahoma only laying 11.5 on the road. Yeah, absolutely sign me up. But as a UCF fan, I have watched Dillon Gabriel, as a UCF fan, I have watched Dillon Gabriel, the QB for the Oklahoma Sooners. And while Dillon Gabriel is great at home, I also know he has not been good on the road in his career. He played 11 road games at UCF. Granted, let's keep in mind, these are all against, AAC teams, not the best teams of the bunch. I can call a spade a spade. In those 11 road games, he threw 10 interceptions. He single-handedly kind of sold UCF out of a lot of those games. And if he's throwing interceptions, it's going to be easier for Nebraska to cover this. You're giving me 11.5 points. I know Nebraska, if they can get some push up front, make Dillon Gabriel a little bit uncomfortable, I think they can force a turnover or two, limit this Oklahoma offense, which doesn't have the best defense in the world. And Nebraska's offense has been able to put up points. They've played 3 games, scored 28 points in all 3 of them, and the defense has to step up. That's where the Oklahoma Sooners are going to, if they're going to win and cover, they're going to have to put up points. I need the Nebraska team defense to step up. They gave up 640 yards last week to Georgia Southern and only forced 1 punt. That's not going to cut it on Saturday against the Oklahoma Sooners, but I think they can certainly get it done. And it would not shock me at all if Nebraska somehow pulls off the upset of that no one is expecting on this Saturday, a team with a new head coach fighting with some sort of new energy. I love Nebraska plus 11.5. I bet that probably not a lot of people are going to like, but I think I absolutely love it. And that's why it's my best bet of the weekend. But Logan, we might as well segue into your best bet. Who you got?
Well, Austin, I'm rolling with Northern Illinois plus 1.5 versus Vanderbilt in this one. Logan, where is this bet? This is right out of left field, like your Army pick. The Army pick broke our hearts last week. They lose on the hook in a hard-fought overtime defeat, but they almost covered the spread for us. That's okay. We're out for some revenge, and we're against Vanderbilt in this one, right? Vanderbilt being an SEC team, they always get the SEC clout. They're 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 games versus MAC opponents. The narrative is there. The public is all over Vanderbilt in this one. And I say, not so fast in my best Lee Corso impression, right? Northern Illinois also coming off a tough loss versus Tulsa, right? 38-35 in this one. But you have to read the line a little bit in this one. It's a near pick 'em on the line, right? Plus 1.5. If you want to take the money line, sure, be it. But I'll take the points in case they just end up losing by 1. But Northern Illinois' offense, great on third down, right? 24th in third down conversion percentage at 50%. That's going to be important, especially, moving the ball up and down on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's defense doesn't strike fear into anybody's heart. Vanderbilt's defense, 104th in scoring defense, 105th in passing yards allowed. And mind you, Vanderbilt hasn't played, that tough of a schedule for them to be, getting pounded by some good SEC teams. So Northern Illinois should be decent on offense to be able to move the ball. And Vanderbilt's offense is 99th in third down conversion percentage. They're a very run-heavy team. I think if Northern Illinois' defense can step up, put them in the 3rd and longs, Vanderbilt's offense is going to have a really hard time. They should be punting in this one. Also worth noting, Northern Illinois' defense, they haven't been great statistically, right? They're in the 90s in passing yards and rushing yards allowed. But look, I just really trust them. It's rare that you see an SEC team in a virtual pick'em with a MAC team. And I'm taking Northern Illinois in this one. I think they have a really good chance to cover our best bet and get us back on track.
Logan, I like that. Hopefully we can go 2-0 on our best bets, get that segment back on track. Now, let's move into our next game. We're talking about the 11th ranked Michigan State Spartans traveling to the Washington Huskies. And it's rare to see almost a top 10 program, currently an underdog. Mona Washington's -3, over under 57.5. And honestly, I think this is the first real game for each of these two opponents. Both are 2-0, but they haven't played any competition. So this is really going to decide, how good exactly are these teams. Now, the fans, they think Michigan State should blow them out of the water. 76% of you guys are on Michigan State plus the 3. And I hate to do this to you guys, but I'm going the other way, taking Washington -3. Now, like I said, it's rare that you see a near top 10 team facing an unranked team and they're an underdog, yet that's what we have here. I mean, Michigan State has yet to face a team that they really shouldn't have beaten. And I think you look at their QB, Peyton Thorne. He's thrown three interceptions in those 2 games. Washington's always been a team that's prided itself on that defense, and I think they can certainly force some turnovers here, and that could be the difference. We think about Michael Penix Jr., the transfer from Indiana. He's been pretty good so far. He was pretty good at Indiana. Had a rough, 2021, but that was not necessarily all of his fault, and I think he could certainly get it done this year. Almost 700 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's played in plenty of big games. So you could be thinking, they've only played cupcakes. Well, he's played a lot of big games, and while hasn't necessarily had the best win-loss to his name, I do think he's capable, and I think the books are respecting the Washington Huskies at home in this contest. The new head coach of the Huskies, who's in his first year, he's always been a winner at every single level of college. I believe he's like 79-9 overall in his career. So I really do think the Washington Huskies, the bookmakers are telling us, why would they're expecting people to want to be hammering Michigan State, just like all the fans are doing. So I absolutely love the Washington Huskies this weekend. -3, it's at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Everyone's going to be watching this game. Everyone's going to be betting it. So I'm riding with the Huskies -3 points. Logan, are you riding with me?
I am absolutely riding with you, Austin. Let's cash a squad ride on this one. I'm taking Washington -3 in this one. First of all, I loved Penix Jr. at Indiana. I think he'll be great for us once again in this matchup. Washington also 10th in the country in third down conversion percentage at 60%. So Washington is a great third down offense, and that's so key in these college football games. Backs against the wall, you need the drive to go down, win you the game, potentially also cover for you. Washington has been clutch like that, right? Washington also 9th in passing yards. Michigan State by comparison, their defense 55th in passing yards allowed. So I definitely think Washington should be able to throw the ball all over Michigan State and be up and down the field. Michigan State also 81st in rushing yards allowed. If Penix wants to use his legs, which we've seen, he has an ability to be that dual threat type quarterback. He should be able to get it done. I really do think Washington's offense overwhelms Michigan State, and I think they win and cover for us today, Austin. Let's ride this one.
I think people at Michigan State are really going to feel the loss of Kenneth Walker III, who obviously is in the NFL now playing on Sundays, or technically Mondays on Monday Night Football, although he was inactive last night. But I do like that pick. We're riding with the Washington Huskies. Let's go to our final game. Then we'll talk about our upset picks. It's the final ranked matchup. So we only have 2 ranked matchups. It's a bad week of college football in terms of that, but still a good week to bet on it. The 13th ranked Miami Hurricanes travel to the 24th ranked Texas A&M Aggies. You look at the Aggies coming off a loss to Appalachian State, another team that they paid to go play them, and then they lose to them. Shout out to Appalachian State, though. They're hosting College Game Day this weekend. But we look at Texas A&M, -5.5, over under 48.5. The fans slightly on the Miami Hurricanes, 56% of you guys on Miami, +5.5. Now, Logan, I'll let you start this one off.
Yeah, I don't really have a super good gauge on the spread in this one, so I'm going to touch the total in this one, and I'm going with the over 48.5 total points. I think that's honestly the best play out of this game right now. Miami, if you look at what they've been doing, they've been beating up on bad teams, but still worth noting, they've been doing it impressively, right? 7th in scoring offense, 6th in rushing yards, and 6th in yards per play. So when they need to have the offensive production, it's been there so far this year, right? Miami is 24th in third down conversion percentage at 50%, a statistic that I keep bringing up because I can't tell you how many times in college football, you just see these drives stall out at third down. Well, Miami hopefully should be able to keep the chains moving for us, which is good news for our over, right? Texas A&M's defense also terrible on third down conversion percentage. They rank at 91st in third down conversion percentage. That's only, they're allowing 45%. That's a Texas A&M defense that Jimbo Fisher prides himself on, and they absolutely could not get off the field against Appalachian State. It was a great victory for Appalachian State, but it's also great news for our over in this one, right? On the other side of the ball, we got Texas A&M's offense. They're still 25th in yards per play. They have some quick strike offense and some playmakers on that side of the ball. And Miami does give up the chunk yardage plays, 94th in yards per play allowed. So Texas A&M should be able to hopefully get some quick strike offensive drives, which will go a long way to cashing our over. Miami's defense also 67th in third down conversion percentage allowed at almost 40%. So you see, guys, these defenses can't get off the field on third down. Hopefully we see some drives result in touchdowns at the end, and I'm feeling really good about this over.
Now, Logan, I'm going to take a stab at a spread in this one, and I'm actually going to go with the Texas A&M Aggies -5.5, and I hope they're a team that's putting up, I don't know, maybe they can get you 50 points, get you a no-sweat bet. Now, A&M, one of only 2 teams in the SEC to currently not have covered a single game. They're 0-2 against the spread. I believe the other is Auburn. Hopefully Auburn moves to 0-3 since I picked Penn State. Now, A&M lost last week to Appalachian State, and I think a lot of people are going to look at them and be like, oh gosh, man, how are they favorites here? How are they favored against Miami, a 13th ranked program? And I think people forget that Appalachian State is a pretty decent program. I'm glad they're getting the College Game Day. I'm glad College Game Day is going to places that, normally they aren't going to. I mean, you saw last week they went to Texas and Alabama, or Alabama at Texas. But since Jimbo Fisher arrived at Texas A&M, Aggies 14-9 against the spread as a home favorite. That includes the 0-2 start that they've already had this year. And I think this is a clear letdown spot for Miami. They haven't played any competition so far. Sure, you beat up on Bethune and you beat up on Southern Miss, but this is a different program in terms of Texas A&M. They have a lot of talent. Obviously, didn't all come to fruition last week. They weren't able to get much going. I mean, they lost 14-17. You're not going to really cover a 5.5 spread, only scoring 14 points. It's going to be pretty tough to do so. And I think this is a game where Miami returns to the team that we've kind of seen over the last decade. They've kind of let down their fans and everyone that's kind of been betting on them because this team just hasn't been able to get it done. And maybe this is their, come to fruition moment. Maybe they're like, fine, we're finally back. We're beating a top-ranked program like Texas A&M, who was 6th ranked prior to their loss to Appalachian State. Now they dropped all the way to 24th ranked. I think there was an overreaction. I think this line is showing that they think the Texas A&M Aggies come out here, and I think their defense is good enough to limit, maybe some of Miami Hurricanes, potential firepower. Now, I do think this, like Logan said, could be a higher scoring game. Both defenses are struggling to get off the field. I think that benefits Texas A&M a little bit more. I think you heard all of Logan's stats. I think Texas A&M is the play here. They obviously only scored 14 points last week. I think there's a little bit of regression for them to come back to fruition, kind of score some more points. And so I'm riding with the Aggies, minus the 5.5 points. I think it's a pretty good one. Hopefully, Logan, again, we have another one where we're both betting on one spread and one on the over. Hopefully we can both cash out. But Logan, you know what time it is? It's the upset pick season. And, I got to be honest, we're 0-2 right now. And both of our picks weren't very good last week. But week 3, we are dialed in. We're calibrated. I'm going to let you kick this one off because I like the value in the pick you got going. Who you got as your upset underdog pick this weekend?
Yeah, so this week we're going to cash one of these, or we're going to hopefully get close to, to make Pitt's bets sweat, right? That's what we want in this one. I'm taking Western Michigan Broncos against Pitt, plus 315 odds. So crazy odds on this one, crazy good value. Now, I really do think Western Michigan will play Pitt tough. They beat Pitt last year, right? They upset Pitt with Kenny Pickett, right? This is a dangerous spot, in my opinion, for Pitt. They're on the road in Waldo Stadium. I had to look up what Western Michigan's name of the stadium was. It's their first home game of the year, too, so you're going to have some rowdy home crowd backing them. And, after 2 big games to start the year for Pitt, this is an easy trap spot, right? Playing a MAC team. The MAC doesn't get a whole lot of respect from the betting public. But let me tell you, they play a lot of the big teams tough, right? Western Michigan already played Michigan State, and they did cover in that one. And they were hanging around with Michigan State and being annoying enough for me to see stuff in that game to say, yes, they could definitely put Pitt on upset alert, right? Keaton Slovis was injured versus Tennessee last week. He's questionable for this week. If he plays, good for him. If he doesn't, I think that helps our pick a lot more, right? That offense was looking, MIA a little bit versus Tennessee. They didn't get the quick scores that they really needed to against Tennessee. Pittsburgh also terrible at running the ball, 113th in rushing yards. Let me tell you right now that if you are a one-dimensional offense, I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing an inferior MAC team, it's still going to be closer, than you want. If your passing offense just isn't there and you're going 3 and out, eventually Western Michigan will be able to move the ball. Pittsburgh offense also 95th in third down conversion. Now, I'm saying Western Michigan is going to have a tough time moving the ball up and down on Pitt's defense. Pitt's defense is very formidable. But for an upset alert, you just got to have a little bit of faith and a little bit of magic. For me to consider this one successful, I do need Western Michigan to at least, at the bare minimum, cover for us and make Pitt sweat a little bit. Last week, unfortunately, Stanford could not get off the field. They just got ran over. But this one, I really do think we have a really good chance of cashing some action, and that's why I'm rolling with it.
Logan, we have a theme for our upset picks. You were riding the Western Michigan Broncos. I'm riding with the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, currently at plus 205. Now, when you look at Western Kentucky, they're taking on Indiana. And Western Kentucky, the thing about them, they can score points. And that's what you need out of a team that I think can pull off an upset. They scored 38 points versus Austin Peay, 49 versus Hawaii. Now, no, those teams aren't also that very good, but they did take care of those competitions, easily beating those two teams. And they got a week off to prepare for this contest versus Indiana, a ball club that I don't really consider to be all that great. Now, Indiana, when I look at the lines, we talked about a couple weeks ago, Indiana, just a 3.5-point favorite. They're at home versus Illinois. And now they're just only a 6.5-point favorite versus a Conference USA team. I think the line feels a little bit fishy. I think they're thinking Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, can keep this game close. Now, Indiana's offense has been suspect, and we got an over-under in the 60s. Look, I think an over-under, if this is a high-scoring game, I think that benefits Western Kentucky, benefits their QB play, benefits their offense, a team that can score points, like I said. And Western Kentucky, led by their QB, Austin Reed. And as an Austin, us Austins, got to stick together. And I think he's certainly capable of getting done. He's completing 65% of his throws, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And I just think Western Kentucky has the offense to do it here. The defense will be the question mark, but I've seen Indiana play plenty, and they have been unable to really move the ball. They drop a lot of passes, commit some holding penalties. It's a team that has a lot of self-inflicted wounds, and that's what we're hoping for here. Getting a little plus 205 value. They certainly can't do worse than my last pick last week with Virginia Cavaliers losing 24-3. That was absolutely abysmal. And I think the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, led by Austin Reed, I think they can certainly get it done. Like plus 205, not asking for a crazy amount. Looking at the lines, I think Western Kentucky's got a chance to pull off the upset pick for me, and that's who I'm riding with. But look, if you want to parlay, Logan and nice picks go together. You can have a little Western-themed parlay. What could go wrong? It could never fail you. But that's going to wrap it up for college week 3. Best bets. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Obviously, like I mentioned at the top of the show, join our chalkboard if you want to. You'll see the Logan and I chatting in there about all of our things. We had a bunch of different little group chats that you can talk with other people about your plays. Appreciate you guys always tuning in. Bunch of other videos coming up on the screen. Thank you guys again for all the love and support. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.